Another Junkie short shot.
What's up, everyone? Back again. This is the Building Better DJs podcast with the Beat Junkies. What's up, y'all? I am Babu.
My name is Mr. Choc. What's up?
Yo, Melo-D.
What up, D-Styles?
Coming to you live from the Beat Junkie Institute of Sound. In case you didn't know, check us out at our record pool, www.beatjunkies.com.
Yeah, listen to the game.
Our online school, beatjunkies.tv.
Yeah, listen to the game.
And anything about our physical school in Glendale, California, beatjunkiesound.com. Check us out.
Yep.
Today's episode, speaking of our school, we are talking about teaching DJing. Our experience with it, we've had a school now for a few years, and we've definitely learned a few things about teaching. Obviously, we've got a veteran in our squad when it comes to teaching, Mr. Choc.
Yeah.
But for all of us guys, like, you know, starting from the beginning, for all of us learning how to DJ, we all had to learn on our own. You know, it was the 80s for most of us, late, you know, and obviously there was no internet. There weren't as many outlets with information like we have now. So what was your guys' earliest memories of being taught or learning or even teaching, like, early on for any of you guys?
For me, it was really just, I think, being self-taught. Again, like you said, like no internet, no real tools or resources. I was pretty young, so I didn't have anyone that I was close to that I could learn from, other DJs. So really for me, it was just about the music that I was into at the time, and we're talking mid 80s, so like UTFO, Run DMC, all the classic, that first wave of hip hop, Cash Money, Jazzy Jeff, EPMD, DJ Scratch out here on the West, Low Profile with DJ Aladdin, Joe Cooley, Rodney and Joe Cooley. But just having those records and just literally just by ear, just like studying those scratches and just trying my best to like mimic it or just kind of just try and decode how they were doing those patterns. And that was really my way of learning. I just remember like Cash Money specifically, like he had a lot of unique scratches to me that were unique and patterns. And I just remember like listening to like literally that entire album, like every chorus he was getting busy. And like it was like he was the chorus, and like I just remember picking up the needle and just listening over and over. I mean, with everybody, like Aladdin too, like, you know, and then even driving around, like, you know, when CDs came out and I had a tape deck and just same thing, just everything by ear. Really, it was kind of like I said, just the way I taught myself. But I wish there was something like a school, or that even if I had like someone that I was, you know, that I knew that had experience, like a Mr. Choc, you know what I mean, that could teach me. But yeah, that was personally how I learned or taught myself.
Pretty much the same thing for me, just listening to records. Really more for me, though, was listening to mix show DJs, and also going out and actually seeing DJs like at clubs and just like kind of seeing what they were doing. Because I come from dancing. I was a b-boy and dancing and stuff, so I would buy records just to practice too. But I would listen to like the DJ getting busy on them. So when I would actually go out and hear a DJ actually mixing at a club or even on the radio, and I would hear them like doing doubles or something, I'd be like, what is that? How are they doing that? Oh, they have 2 copies. Oh, okay. So, you know, like me was just like really observing DJs when they were live, and also just like Melo was saying, like listen to the cuts and, you know, just rewinding the part back over and over and over again, just trying to figure out what they were doing on the scratch side.
Yeah.
How about you, D?
Pretty much the same thing. I used to go to a lot of house parties, school dances, and there you would see DJs. And, you know, sometimes they weren't cutting it up. Some of them would, some of them wouldn't. And then I always understood they were playing records, but I didn't understand what that device was in the middle of these two.
The mixer.
Yeah, the mixer. When someone finally told me, oh, that's an audio mixer, you can get that at Radio Shack. I was like, Mom, take me to Radio Shack. I gotta see what the fuck this is.
Yeah.
So that was it for me, man.
Yeah, I think we all agree. I think rap records really taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Early on, and I'm sure we all forget, but like I remember at any time early on, if I met another DJ anywhere, I was the kind of type who would be very quick to like, oh, you DJ, you want to come to my house and cut up? You know, let's go to your house and cut it up. You want to cut it up? Let's go cut it up. You want to cut it up? Like, you know.
I was a bugaboo too, man.
Yeah,
me too.
and I probably
knocked on a lot of doors.
Yeah, I probably irritated the crap out of a lot of people, and I met a lot of people over the years, I just kept filtering people out because it was really hard to find someone as into it as I was, I guess, or trying to find someone who could show me these particular things I couldn't figure out on my own. Right?
Yeah. For me, the age of 16, actually 16. I started DJing when I was 15, but 16 is when I met the Baker Boys, and I started hanging out with them, and I learned a lot from them, just watching them and like their techniques as far as like how they would transition from record to record, how they would cut it up, and just really got me more involved in the DJ part of it, and made me want to go out and get records and practice with them a lot. I learned a lot from them.
For sure, and I think it was like a sponge kind of. Like a era we're in, like we were like super sponges because it was so scarce. I remember it was a time when I think I'd always have this is before I was DJing, right? I had a tape deck and a blank tape deck on pause and record. My VHS was ready to record.
Ready to go.
If I saw
At
anything,
all times.
if I saw any of this, or just like anything hip hop, I would like I need to record that, a song on the radio, anything, and that carried over into a little later when I got into DJing. And just like I said, in another other episode, we're talking about the first time we saw equipment. I remember getting records and being like, "Oh my god, that the first time I saw a 1200, or the first time I saw this mixer, or what mixer is that?" And then we're hearing it. I think the next logical place for me to learn after like meeting people here and there was, do you guys first remember getting any kind of videotapes of any sort, seeing battles, or even a copy of a copy of a copy of someone cutting it up or something? Like, let's talk about early videotapes maybe we all saw.
DMC battles, the one that Qbert won, that was a big one that just stayed on constant rotation in my house. Not only with just the Qbert's part, but just like every other DJ that was on there. I really studied.
That was a sick one. 91?
Yeah.
So
I studied that one.
Qbert Dolo. So that's like 91. We're talking
91
Qbert,
USA.
Qbert, Steve
The one in
D.
Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago
Who
battle.
else?
No,
is in
that's
that
the one
one?
DJ David won, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, that's the Worlds.
The World.
Worlds.
The World is the one I watched a lot.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
For me, it was the 91 USA, the Qbert, when he won that out here, and that was it's like Exotic E, Boogie Boy from Chicago, Rectangle, Q, Baby G,
Steve D.
There was like 8 or 9. Forget the Eddie Fuentes. He was like more. He wasn't really so much a cut it up guy. Rectangle was like,
Rectangle's in there?
Yeah, I had some with them.
and I remember that was actually the very first video of actual DJing and battling and turntablism that I ever personally got my hands on. And record store I used to frequent back in the day, Norwalk Records. I think they're still around.
Shout out Norwalk Records.
Big up Norwalk. I just, I was on one of my regular shopping runs just to go buy some records, and I just randomly, Rectangle and his partner Twist were there, and I overheard them. I was like, digging through the bin a few feet away from them, and the battle had just happened. And so, not to air anybody out, but I can say this now, but Rectangle, they had copies, they had bootleg copies of the battle. And so I ended up buying the copy from Rectangle and Twist, and it was $30. And same thing like you were saying. Yeah. I took it home, and man, I watched that tape to death. Like, that was heavy. Like, and like right in the instant, I was like, man. I mean, that was the first time. And what's crazy is I had, through my high school homie, shout out White Knight, DJ White Knight, Audio Dimension. He had given me audio cassettes of DMC battles, like 88, 89, the year Cash Money won. He had this dope, like, it never came out, and I can't find my copy, but it was called the Low Pro Funk Module. You guys ever get that? It's a mega mix that Aladdin did of the entire Low Profile album.
Oh my
4-track
God.
mix. It was
Please
sick.
find that.
So anyways, like he had given me this stuff, and so I had heard competitions on audio, but this is the first time I ever saw it. So when I saw this, like, and everyone, they're doing body tricks, and then later, I saw the actual DMC, things that I'd heard for years, like on audio cassette, and then it started to make sense. I was like, oh wow, so they're, when it's sounding a little offbeat, it's because they're doing this, they're under the knee, they're behind the back, they're shoulder, all that. So I was hype, I was fired up. So I had a whack ass mixer back then, but I was definitely trying to do all that stuff at the house. You know what I mean? Like,
you try to mimic everything you saw in the video.
Yeah, that was the battle.
Everything that you
though,
thought was dope.
that was a dope ass battle for sure.
You know what's funny, man, is back then, Qbert used to slang DMC tapes.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, so basically everyone got their videos from Q. And so, back then, this is back in the beeper days, you had to send Q a page,
right.
and he hit you back, all right, come through at 1:30. $20.
It's like a dope deal or something.
Yeah, but what was dope was he had all the regionals, which were kind of hard to find. You know what I mean? The ones
like the local battles.
Yeah.
New York Heat or whatever.
Right. It's like a lot of the rare, joints.
Damn, yeah,
so
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
would be there. Shortcut would go there and buy his copy. Every DJ would have to buy it from Q. So he was making good money.
Yeah,
back then.
That's so crazy.
That's a cool hustle.
Yeah,
What about you, Babs?
the VHS time was super heavy on me. That battle was super. That was a super heavy one that I learned a lot from. But I think I actually didn't see that one first. The first one I saw was 92 USA. It was probably the first DMC battle tape that I owned. Like
92.
I got. So that's
92.
Rocksteady DJ's X-Men.
Oh,
okay,
right.
That's the first videotape that I think I found it on Melrose and I bought it and I came home with it. Those are really hard to get. And I think before then though, I had a lot of tidbits like from cousins, like from family who were up north or something.
Dubs and
like,
dubs, like-
I had seen a copy of Home Turf.
Okay.
Like FM20 and
Yep.
Rocksteady DJs on Home Turf. I remember having that on videotape and just wearing that out for fucking ever. I actually remember having a house party, a tape of Mike and Q at a house party.
Wow.
I remember just having little weird
where's that
things.
at? Yeah.
I wish I could
Need to
find
see
all
that.
this stuff, but and I was like so like I said, this is still in that phase of like anything I could see or hear DJing. I was just like, oh God, you know what I mean? And but videotapes, especially once we all started knowing each other, it was cool to see everyone's videotape collection. It was cool to finally be able to see a seminar. Short put me up on a lot of. He has a pretty sick video collection of being up on all the videotapes and stuff. So Short actually put me up on a lot of battles I wasn't able to see or just heard of.
Yeah.
Finally getting to see, I don't know, even like Joe Cooley and Cash seminar. I didn't get to
Yeah.
see that till much later.
Same here.
Aladdin and Miz. Oh
Yep.
my God. But videotapes is a big way that I figured a lot of things out. It was hard enough to figure out things from hearing someone scratching on a record. So it's pretty amazing to be able to do something just off of ear. I still remember Freshco and Miz, We Don't Play.
Oh,
Yep,
I
yep.
remember that.
I spent many days
know that solo by heart.
just trying to do all that whole little scratching pass with Peter Piper, and like that was like pretty much a great example of how I used to learn stuff. I never really understood it. If I can make it sound like the record,
Then, yeah.
that was good enough for me,
Yeah.
Right.
So moving forward, like I never really taught too many people. I remember sharing a lot of ideas with other DJs I'd run into, even when we got together as a crew. I don't really remember. Well, I guess with the flare scratch, that was probably the first time like someone really had to sit me down and teach me something. Maybe some of maybe Melo, we were sharing some like really advanced beat juggling ideas, but I really feel like the flare scratch was the first time I really was forced to like learn something really advanced.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you two were teaching me a lot. Like I was calling you guys on the phone or whenever we'd get up. But now that I think about it in retrospect, that was probably the first time I was doing anything remote to what we're doing now. Like that kind of learning.
Right.
I just used to beat things into my head. Like I would just do things because obviously I'm 18, 19. I work at the gas station. I can sit in my room for 8 hours and do something until I get it.
Flush it out.
Fast forward now, I remember going like learning the flare. And I'm thinking like, when did you guys all start trying to comprehend what you actually did?
For me, I think is before I started teaching, the first person I ever taught was my son. So like actually showing him how the equipment worked, how to pick up the needle, just basic, just understanding the equipment. I showed him how to do that, and that was like my first, first time I actually really taught somebody was actually teaching my actual son on how to pick up the needle right so you don't break the needle, and how to hold the record, and what the headphones are for, and just how if you have 2 copies of a record, what are you going to do with it? Like I started teaching him at the age of 11. So it was that was my first time actually really teaching somebody. But then I started liking it. I didn't know what my future was going to be with teaching, but I definitely enjoyed showing my son the ropes on how to get down with the equipment and stuff.
How about you guys?
I don't think it really clicked that I understood the science of scratching until probably like mid 90s. But previously, before that, I think it was, for me, it was like a lot of it was luck. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm able to actually do this.
Yeah. Like a mistake gone right, and you would nail it, right? Yeah.
And it was just repetition. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand the actual science of it. probably until I linked up with like you guys. And I remember that was when flaring was brand new, and me and Shortcut would come down.
Yeah.
And we were trying to explain to you guys like DJ Flare, like he's cutting these sounds in half. It's like a transformer, but it's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I couldn't understand it, but I could only do one scratch, which was like just a one-click flare, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think after that, then I was like, I need to kind of understand what I'm doing here to be able to explain it. But yeah, before that, it was just like fucking anything goes, right?
Right. Yeah.
So at this time, I mean, we had names for things. You know, maybe. There was still kind of like it was kind of regional. You might go to like some other part of the country, and we call it shuffling. Oh, we call it doing doubles. Like we call this the chua chua. We call it the chawa chawa. Whatever. Like, but at a certain point, I think a language started developing in the mid '90s
for sure.
Right, and like there started to become standard names for techniques.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the early days of like really taking this serious in terms of like, hey, this is something that can be considered higher learning. This can be taught. Like let's build. And I remember early on, there is turntable transcription that started at that time. People started being able to write and notate scratches.
Yeah.
Who was it? Radar?
John Carluccio
Radar, started the system.
A-Track.
A-Track. All three of those guys were all breaking ground at that time. I know there's a lot of innovators now, but just thinking of those early days of just really thinking of DJing took that like technical turn. I think like to come into a battle was a very technical daunting thing. So I think this language and this standard came out of it, which we were all part of that at that time. And it's weird to think now though. I don't think I was forced to really learn about my craft until we started teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here.
Go ahead.
No. I just think I did the bare minimum, as far as like, as long as I can do it,
right?
Whenever I have to jump on stage, as long as I can do it, that's enough, right? But like, I felt like I was doing myself a disservice for many years.
Yeah. To kind of further what D said, like I never really, personally, for when I was learning, like early mid '90s, never really took the time to science it out. Like up here, for me, it was more about muscle memory. I just remember this feeling of like, again, going back, listening to Joe Cooley and Cash or whoever, and finally learning a scribble, right? That was a big one for me. Like like I used to scratch like this with my hand on the outside of the rim of the record. Mm-hmm. And when I finally got it, it was more of like, oh, okay, so that's how it's done. And I just remember like staying up until literally my brain was fried and I just couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Just like with this feeling of like, all right, just please let me wake up and still be able to do it. Like I would just like scratch till I felt like, all right, I got this down. Like I'm going to have it in the morning. And that was my way of understanding like each scratch, whether it was the scribble or the chirp or remember the old, it's a chirp, but the Aladdin used to do it for days. Like that scratch.
Okay.
Like that boggled my mind for years. And then finally, like when I got it, I was like, oh, it's a long baby, short baby, but just accelerated, like, so with the chirp, of course, but yeah. And then fast forward. Yeah. When I was working in Vegas, this is probably like 2008, 2009, there was this guy, his name was Scotty. And he used to come around like, maybe like, for a period of like 2 months, and this went on for like maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years, and he would come to the club every Saturday, Body English at the Hard Rock, and finally, he would come in the booth and hang out, and he was cool, and he just wanted to watch me DJ, and so I got to know him a little bit. Turns out he was a soccer player for Manchester United, so he would fly to Vegas like during the off season. He had a house there, and he would just chill out for until training started up again. So finally, after we got to know each other, he asked me to teach him. So I was like, sure. So I went to his house in Summerlin in Vegas, and I had no idea. Again, this is 10, 11, 12 years ago, whatever. And so I remember like bringing some records and trying to explain to him, no, you do it like this. But, and I had it hit me like in that moment, like, wow, I have no idea how to explain what I do to anybody. Like, so to further your guys' point, like I couldn't put it into words, and that's when it really hit me. Like, man, I've been doing this for darn near 20 years now, and it's like I can't even explain like the most rudimentary concept to someone that really wants to learn. And we did one session. He gave me like $100 or whatever, and I remember leaving his house feeling so bad, like I failed him. like, damn, I couldn't even like explain. I couldn't explain anything like other than like pick the needle up, put it on the record. You know what I mean? Like that was it. Like he didn't get anything out of me. Like he just basically torched $100. Like
got
it was,
$100.
yeah, it was fucked. So Scotty, you're out there, man. I'm sorry, brother. Like, but come see us. We got a real DJ school now.
We got it right now.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I do at least.
I can relate to that, Melo, because I think like times when I have tried to teach others before we opened our school, like I was the worst. I had zero patience. We can probably that's probably why Nico doesn't DJ now. You know, and like until we opened the school, well, Choc, like you've been teaching the longest out of all of us.
Yeah, my first real experience after my son was there was this kid that won a contest we were doing when I was on Power 106, and he won a DJ lesson with me. So right then and there, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do a DJ lesson with this guy, I really got to know exactly what I'm going to be teaching him. So I started like really thinking about like what type of scratches I was going to teach him, because it was like a 2-hour session, so I only had like one day with this kid. So I wanted to make sure he was at least understood, like walked away with something. You know what I'm saying? That was my first time teaching outside of my son. So I just showed him like basic scratches, and from there though I started understanding like, oh, okay, well I need to tell him where to put his hand and how to move the record. I started understanding like how to present something to someone who knows nothing about the craft at all, and has no interest or anything, but you know, I could spark their interest by the way I'm presenting it to them. So I started really thinking about like again, like how to put your hand on the record, how to move the record, how to move to the beat. You know, like I started getting a good understanding of all these things from that first lesson. But then I wouldn't start teaching again until probably maybe 3 or 4 years after that. And that's when I was presented with the opportunity to go to Scratch Academy. That's when I started thinking really about, okay, I need to really know and have patience in order to present something to people and for them to understand it and actually make sure they're having fun too. Because when you're learning something, man, it's frustrating sometimes if you don't get it right away and you see other people around you getting it. Like it's so I try to make it fun as possible. And you know, and just like really learning more about like what I've been doing all these years. Like, oh, this is a baby scratch. If I want to go faster, I know I have to shorten my distance. Or if I want to do a scribble, I know like how to make it go fast, and then to go into a whole nother scratch, a stab. So explaining all that type of stuff started becoming more natural for me. But yeah, that started right after that second lesson with the kid I did with a private lesson with.
So let's take it back a little bit though, Choc. You were at Scratch for many years. You were like the director over there for how many years?
Well, when we first opened up the school, I was just an instructor.
You're just an instructor.
Yeah,
Okay.
I went there as an instructor, helping. You know, we actually sat down with Hapa, and we sat down and like looked at the curriculum that New York had made for the Scratch Academy, and we said we need to have a different direction with this. Like, you know, we mix different out here in the West Coast, so Hapa tapped me and like wanted to let's build a curriculum. So we built a curriculum for the West Coast on how we mix, and you know, and from there we opened up the school, and then we had I was an instructor for a couple of years, took a break, and then I came back. And when they asked me to come back, came back as a director. So then I was in charge of like a staff, you know, a teaching staff, and I had to make sure that everybody had the right curriculum for whatever class they were teaching. And you know, it was always like a constant thing, like we're sitting down and trying to update the curriculum and everything. But yeah, that was my first experience.
But let's pull back even more, Choc. Let's just understand that you guys are opening arguably the first legitimate DJ school
in Los Angeles,
in the
country.
So
Scratch Academy.
Were there other DJ schools, guys, before that you guys knew about or anything, right?
I remember hearing that was the first, like, oh wow, that's probably the first DJ school I remember hearing about. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Right. So like, I mean, even just on that level, Choc. I mean, what was people's reactions first when you guys opened your doors?
It
like
was
a
huge.
DJ school, right? Like,
It was huge. Anybody that had any curiosity about DJing, everybody was there. And you know, for me, it was just a learning experience. Just really trying to understand, like, what it is that we were doing. And you know, with the school opening, it was a big deal. It was the second school in the country. The first one was New York, and then we opened up the one in Los Angeles. And there was others that opened up across the country after that. But yeah, it was a big deal. It was like every major DJ, whether old to the new, was there at our grand opening. And I just remember a lot of people wanted to be involved. So it was an experience, man. It was a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time, collectively for the Junkies, we were all in the thick of the trenches. We were out working, and I don't think teaching was quite on the collective minds of all of us quite yet.
I will say though, I remember just being scared to death, dude, of just like teaching and like hoping that I could say, present this and to people and they have an understanding of what it is that we're trying to teach. And yeah, it started paying off, man. I think the more I was in front of people and the more I was teaching, the better I got, the more confidence I got, and the more patience I started to have also too. So that's important. When you want to teach, you have to have patience.
For sure.
For sure.
So years later, let's fast forward a little bit for us, and this is like 10 plus years later for the rest of the Junkies. Obviously 2017, we opened our own school here in Glendale, California, the Beat Junkie Institute of Sound. And obviously I think a lot of us, our mind frame was in a much different place. And I think us opening our own school was obviously a really exciting thought that, we're all thinking, okay, we're going to open our own school. We're going to teach our style of DJing. But I think we all learned really quickly, Choc's already kind of touching on these things, but Melo and D and for myself too, we're all, relatively speaking, we're like new teachers. And Choc, obviously you're going to chime in too.
Yeah.
But what were some of the things that you guys that just stuck out in your minds when we opened the doors to our school and we started actually teaching classes? Like, what didn't you expect that you found out from teaching or having our own school?
Man, I mean, because it was like we opened and Choc had warned us, you guys better be prepared for this. And I felt like we just got thrown into the trenches, and it was like, all right, now it's real, and now you got to learn. And for me, it was having to explain how to do these basic scratches that I don't even think about. I just do naturally on impulse. So, and I wasn't prepared for that. So, Choc was right. It was a lot harder to articulate all that stuff.
Yeah, it really is understanding what you've been doing all these years. Like Melo, you touched on that earlier, and it's just like you have to know what you're talking about, and the student has to feel confident that they are learning something from you. If they can tell if you don't know what you're talking about, they'll because you'll see they'll stop coming to class.
Right.
So it's very important to get your stuff tight when you start teaching.
And you know what's crazy is I actually came to scratch because I wanted to sit in and I wanted to watch Choc teach. Right. And when I was watching, I was like, I could do this, man. This is easy. And then when I tried, when we finally opened and I gave it a shot, I was like, God damn, this is fucking hard, man. Like,
But I told you back then, though, too.
Yeah. Melo, how about you?
Just like you guys were saying, just huge learning experience. Really having to focus on how to articulate and, like you were saying, properly present really whatever we're teaching, the curriculum, the concepts, baby scratch, for example, having to articulate that and present it in a way that makes 100% sense to the student to where they can at least make their best attempt at it and understand what they're trying to do. That was the challenge for me. And to further that, like, ever since I was a kid, I've never, always hated doing, like, class presentations, science projects, and reading in front of my classmates, my peers and all that. So being up on stage and presenting, like, even if it's for 12 students, like, that was a big thing for me too. Like, that was a big hump I had to get over. Even live DJing, I'm not on the mic a whole lot. When it feels appropriate, I'll jump on here and there. But teaching kind of helped me really get over that, like, get through that and bettered me. I feel like, so with this first foundation program that Rhythmatic and I just completed, we started that class in November of 2017, walking them through all 9 levels. And I remember starting that class and, at this point, we had a solid curriculum. We all had a clear understanding of what we were going to teach in this order. And but I still remember, looking back, I remember feeling like, okay, just again, really having to stay focused and like come prepared, just mental game strong. And then fast forward to 2018 when that class graduated and we started with a brand new group, I feel much better. Like, okay, I'd been through the course. I had a year of experience under my belt. Granted, that's not a long time, but just again, just a big learning experience and just growing as an instructor, as a teacher. And I feel like that it just comes with experience and being up there and just dialoguing a lot. Obviously, like being on the decks like 100 times more than I've probably been in the last 12, 15 years, you know.
And that's what I think is important too in your instructor. You need to stay sharp.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that I know that are instructors who don't stay on top of their skills, and so when they're trying to show something, they could barely execute it themselves. So how do you expect the student to even,
Right.
you know,
Right.
like stay sharp instructors out there?
Yeah, definitely. Technically and mentally, right? Yeah.
You know, for me, guys, I always think of I'm traditionally first of all, I applaud all of us because I really take pride in being self-taught, and I think we all are.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You know, and there's something to say about being self-taught, man. There's a real beauty in it. In any art form or any skill, there's always a difference between someone who's self-taught or someone who went to school. And I think there's a perfect place in the middle, you know, that I think is the ultimate place to get to, you know. But when I think of learning about teaching, I always think of this particular project out in high school. I was a horrible student, first of all, guys. Surprise. But I had one teacher who was really awesome. I had an English teacher, and you know, you guys know. Sometimes there's a teacher who resonates with you, and he had this one project. It was an English class, and he said, guys, tomorrow the project is you're going to write literal directions on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I did that same exercise.
Okay.
I did that same
You
one.
did this, right?
Yeah. In
Okay.
elementary school, yeah.
Yeah, so we came the next day, and he literally had a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jelly, a loaf of bread, and a plastic knife and a plate. And everyone turns in their homework. That was your homework for like the night before. You're supposed to write specific directions how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
From your view, though, like
Every student in
Every
class.
student,
Every
yeah.
student.
I
Like
did- that's
that's like,
crazy. I did the same. I
you're
did the
telling-
same joint.
Wow.
You're telling someone how to
Must be
make
Super
a.
Bowl then. I didn't get that in elementary school.
Yeah, you guys, you're telling someone who doesn't know anything about peanut butter, jelly, bread, or sandwiches how to make a. That's what my English told her. And everyone's like, it's easy. We can go home and just done with my homework.
Yep.
All right.
First kid gets up there. All right, Jim. He paired us up. So Jim and Susie are up there. Okay, Susie, you're gonna make the sandwich. Jim, read the directions on your homework. All right, spread the peanut butter. So my English teacher had this girl with a knife just like hitting the lid still on the jar. Dink. How do I can't even get to the peanut butter.
Yeah.
You know, he goes through like fail, next one.
Yep.
Gets through like five of them, and everybody can't even get to the point like, what he's supposed to open. How is he going to open the loaf of bread? You didn't tell him
Yeah.
to take the twisty tie off the bag of bread.
Yep. Yep.
So everyone had to go back home and literally do the homework over, and it was a much different thing. You know, everyone the next day was like, untwist the zip tie.
That's crazy. I
Take
did
out
the
one
same
single
thing.
loaf of bread. You know,
Yeah.
You know, so
Specific.
that it's weird, you know. That's like 30 years later. We're opening a school, and here's just like what D said. Choc warnings. We're writing this curriculum. We're building the school. We're looking at the calendar, and it's like, oh man. I remember we did a few like little faux classes with each other.
Yeah.
I remember we put D up there one day.
Yeah.
Hey guys, just follow along with me. D's like third or fourth round. I'm like, holy shit, I can't even. D said this is like a beginner or intermediate move. I can't even. What was that? I can't even do that shit. You know, I got real embarrassed real quick, and I remember those months before we opened, I really went back to the drawing board. Like I got so paranoid because like it's exactly what you guys said. It's like, holy shit, I can't even explain how to do my most basic money move. Like just doing the most easy thing. I don't even know where to begin. You know,
Right.
And it blew me away.
I remember we were sitting down and we were building the curriculum, and I was just remember we were talking about just simple things like basic music theory, and all you guys had a different way of explaining basic music theory. And I was like, no, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do here. Like, and you guys were like, are you sure? I was like, yes. Trust me, this is the way we're gonna do it. And I remember just being that whole period of time when we were getting ready to open the school, man. I remember we were here doing the mock classes and everything, and I remember just being like, man, these are my brothers. They gonna make it through. They gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? So
Choc was praying for us.
I guess that's the downside of being self-taught, though, because we all, in our own minds, like, now that I think about it, we all scratch and make routines together, make music together, and we never really, like, sat there and go, how many bars is that? We're always just on some shit, like,
it's a feeling.
and then you come in, you know what I mean? And then you end, and then you come in, and like, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, 4 bars, 8 bars, oh, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, like, to really sit there and write a curriculum now, and, like, it really caused me to like really look in the mirror and like, man, I still do have so many holes in my game.
No, but you
know?
came into your own for sure. All of you guys have, really. I'm really proud of all of you guys. Just how you guys have really came in and just really, like, you guys have taken yourselves to other levels as far as DJs just because of you guys learning to instruct. And that's the thing, that when you learn how to be an instructor for DJs, it keeps giving back to you as you guys are already
Yeah.
learning. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
I think that's the biggest secret I learned about teaching is like, you know, I love the feeling of teaching students and seeing them get it, or feeling like they came away
It's
with
a
something.
beautiful feeling, isn't it?
That light
It's a
bulb.
shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know, the real secret I'll share with everyone out there. The real secret is that the instructors are the ones who really get better.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
I can't even. I haven't really felt like.
I
This.
remember having those conversations with you guys too. Like,
Yeah,
we're gonna get dope, y'all. I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
y'all right
Yeah,
now.
you did say that. I remember you said that. Yeah.
I haven't felt this secure about my skills like since ever. Like I literally got to this place where I feel like now I don't want to teach anything unless I feel like I've mastered it. Unless I feel like
There you go.
I'm going to teach it. If I'm going to teach it, that means I can do it 10 out of 10 times in your face with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and
That's
it's really caused me to go back and really I've had to relearn everything. And me and Dee were just talking about this yesterday. Like all of my scratches I learned, guys, I've always learned it on the fast end. Like I could do any scratch on the 16th. That was naturally where I learned it. But ask me to do it quarter note. Ask me to do it halftime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never could do that.
Yeah.
You know, and it unraveled so many things for me. Talking beat juggling, Melo, to really break down things into numbers. How we talk about like patterns. There's definite real techniques and things and rules that we've been doing these years that we just never spoke about.
Right, common denominators and all that. Yeah, the math
Right.
that comes into play. Yeah, for sure. I think for me too, like just to kind of extend on what you just said, like when we first started teaching, like at the most beginner level, baby scratch, and then release, and then release with fader. Like for me, after scratching, for 20 years, like trying to be as technical as I could, to have to fall back and like pull myself back to that level of simplicity was challenging. I know it's funny to say that, but to be up there and like just trying to like on the fly do different variations or combos of simple scratches, baby into release, like that was like, that was like I had to kind of relearn like the most beginner stuff. Like it was crazy. It was just like a real like kind of mental mind fuck in a way, like but in a good way,
Yeah,
sure.
But yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The thing is that when you are teaching, like you guys are up there on the stage all the time now, so you guys see like the students, like they're looking at everything you do, and they are listening to every word you say. So they're taking that all in, and whatever you teach them, they're going to inherit that. You know what I'm saying? If it's a bad habit that you have that you're doing, they're going to inherit that bad habit also too. So that's why it's very important as an instructor that you understand and know exactly what you're going to teach, how you're going to present it, so they can absorb that, and then they can come out with good habits. That's the goal.
Yeah. Amen, Choc.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it, Choc, is teaching continually gives back to the teacher.
Yeah, it does.
You know, even in ways that like we may not see it. Obviously, not quite financially, but no. On the serious tip though, like the gratification levels of it, the self enrichment, and just purely just feeling, this close to DJing, I think is the biggest thing that moves me about it. Like I've just never had this level of comprehension and understanding about what we do, and I see now that this is what it's going to take for our art form, and the way we DJ for it to survive. Is for people to continually keep teaching each other and passing on like correct info down the line.
Yes. So
It-
important.
And I don't think that limits. It's awesome we have a school, but there are great resources. I learn from YouTube all the time. Me and Dee were just talking about this. Like I unravel a lot of mysteries about scratching, especially online. There's so many resources from YouTube to like all over the place, just other online schools and stuff. And I think the learning never stops. Real teachers never really stop trying to learn and improve. But yeah, guys, building better DJs.
Yes,
sir.
Building better DJs. That's what we're doing over here.
Yeah, talking about teaching. I'm pretty sure there'll be another episode where we talk about this topic some more. But thanks for joining us once again. I'm Babu.
Mr. Choc.
Melo-D.
D-Styles.
Building better DJs. We are the Beat Junkies. See you guys next episode.
Yeah.